for those of you guys who are joining me tonight, my name is Kris Channa, the founder of ActivAge, and your host here tonight for this Adult Day Startup webinar. I know some of you guys are returning and have joined me before, so thank you for that. Those who might be new, just to kind of give you some housekeeping items. So for typically for this call, it's about an hour long. Usually the first 10 or 15 minutes or so, we'll go over some intros. So have each of you guys, maybe a handful of you guys, say your name, where you're from, the stage of the journey that you're in as far as your adult day journey. So if that is you're just exploring for the first time and you have this idea of wanting to open one, but want to learn more first before diving into it, or maybe you're looking at property, you're looking at places to lease, or you're maybe you already signed the lease and you're trying to figure out how to get to the next step of maybe getting to opening day, or you just opened and now you're like, what did I get myself into? And can you help me from here? So long story short, it's all Q&A. So I always encourage everyone that if you do have questions, and that are important to you, specific questions about where you're at in your journey, make sure you put those in the chat. If you put those in the chat box, that's where we will go in the order in which people ask questions in the chat. So I'll go right down the list. Most of the time we get through a lot of the questions in there. If we answer all those questions, then we'll leave it open at the end for you guys to jump on the mic and ask any additional questions. But what typically happens is, I'll say that now, people are skittish about putting questions in the chat. And then as we start getting into it, then everyone loads all the questions up. And then there's plenty of questions for us to answer. So I always encourage everyone, if you have a burning question or just something that you really want to know about, put it in the chat right now. Secure your position so we can dive into it. We typically will spend about 5 or so minutes per question. Some questions we might go a little bit longer if I think it'll be helpful for others, or if it's if we dive deeper into something and it's like, oh, this also might be a great topic to cover. So don't be afraid to ask any questions. There are no stupid questions. We're just here to help provide some guidance and just be of service to you guys. So that being said, if you all want to introduce yourselves, feel free to unmute your mic, say hello. Again, your name, where you're from, what stage of the journey you're in. And for the next 10 minutes, we'll just do some introductions here. So.
Hi, my name is Ruth. I'm Harmony Hill.
Hi, Ruth. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm here with some questions. I do work for a daycare that is going to close, and our community is going to be left without services for our seniors. And I'm exploring what I can do to start up something in the community.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like in some ways maybe sad chapter, but also maybe new beginnings for you, and maybe something fresh and new and exciting to come. So definitely maybe an interesting perspective that we've never really covered before. So definitely any ways in which we can maybe shed some light on that process as you navigate that journey, happy to do so. And where did you say you're from, Ruth?
I'm from Illinois.
Okay, and we're at
I'm not. I don't think I'm at liberty to tell you exactly right now,
okay,
because of
gotcha.
the closing. The details
of
closing.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I only ask because my mom's side of the family, they lived in Kankakee, Momence area.
Oh.
So I'm from Florida, but my family used to always go up there on the farm. Loved Illinois in the summertime. Definitely not in the wintertime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I wanted to tell you too that I'm only going to be able to be here for about 20 more minutes. So I'm just going to listen to see what you guys come up with. Okay. Thank you very much.
Right. Absolutely. Well, nice to meet you, Ruth. Appreciate it. All right. Who else wants to just introduce themselves real quick?
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Angela, right?
Yes. My name is Angela Bowie, and my business is Nate Dayhab and Services, operator and owner. But I'm from Houston, Texas, born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. But my question only is definitely with pricing and profit. as switching from Medicaid to now to wanting to private pay.
So Angela, did you put a question in the chat yet?
Mm-hmm.
All
I
right,
did.
let's go. Let's go. Good, because I think so. It sounds like how long have you been open for?
Actually, since 2013, but my feet been on the ground. 2013 up to 3 years ago is when I started the day hab, which is with the Medicaid side. But the
Yeah,
13 years I had it in my house, and
gotcha.
I was actually caring for individuals
Yep.
while
Well,
paying for the daycare, which was just sitting.
right. Well, I think well, one, thank you for being here. Two, I
Thank
think
you for having me.
no, I look forward to diving into your question.
Mhm.
I also think that as you know, we talk and get into the Q&A session part of this, I think you know there's a lot of stuff that Angela, from an experience standpoint, has been through. So for other people on this call, it's always helpful when you have someone that's already like gone through the heavy lift of idea stage to now it's off the ground and now what do I do? You know, or how do I make this transition from, you know, maybe this service, you know, or this is what we've been doing for all these years, and now we're trying to add something new. And how do we transition that? There's experience that you have that's helpful to everyone here. So I'm glad you're here, Angela, and look forward to having a conversation with you.
Mhm.
All right, I think we'll maybe do maybe like 2 or 3 more people. So we got Houston, Texas, Illinois. Who else is on the call? Wants to introduce themselves?
Hey, good evening, everyone.
New York juga juga. New
Hi,
York also is there, Gonzalo.
hi, Donald. How are you?
I am well, thank you. I am Donald, Donald Lewis. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Um, I have been looking into adult day health for the past year. I've done some due diligence. We've found a facility in Rome, Georgia, and we're looking at the lease right now, but there's quite a bit more work that needs to be done.
Yes, there is. I'm helping. I'm consulting with a gentleman who's in that stage of they signed the lease, now they're under construction, and it's funny. We were just talking today, and it's like it's almost like you know, for it's overwhelming for him. Just you know, this the stage in which he's in because it's like you know, marketing hat, ops hat, this hat, construction hat. You know, it's just a lot. You know, the finance hat. You're just doing everything all at once, and everything's a fire. You know, so you know,
Yeah.
you're definitely entering into that stage, but glad you're here. And I think at the stage that you're in, you know, it's helpful, especially on the leasing, you know, on the lease side, location, you know, making sure we choose the right location, like all that stuff that you're going through right now is super helpful for, you know, others on this call too. So,
Thank you.
all right, Donald, nice to meet you. So we got Atlanta, Georgia,
Same here.
Houston, Texas, and Illinois. All right, 2 more people real quick in, you know, who you are, what stage you're, or the journey you're in, and where you're from. Any takers? Anyone want to just,
Hi,
you
I'm
can,
I'm Stacey
hello.
Ann. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm in the stage of like doing my business plan. Now I'm thinking about like to start looking for like a building and also to get like the certificate and all those stuff intact.
Awesome. Awesome, Stacey. Well, I'm glad you're here. I mean, we got. I feel like we got you know a lot of the U.S. covered today. Sometimes we get everyone from Georgia, everyone from Florida, or you know, it seems like there's like pockets of people that come from the same area. So we got a nice variety of people from all over. So this is great. Glad you're here, Stacey. We'll do 1 more person and then we'll go into Q&A.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
Bernadette, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for giving me time to introduce myself. I'm Bernadette. I'm from California. I'm a realtor by profession, and I've been representing a lot of buyers and sellers in healthcare facility and recently the adult day healthcare. And I used to be an owner of residential care facility for elderly. But now being the realtor and seeing the adult day healthcare business versus the residential care facility, for example, just to have a comparison, I'm leaning to the adult day healthcare to be an owner as well because I don't know. I think it's not a 24-hour uh, monitoring of all the residents, and I feel like it's a good healthcare to be in.
Well, Bernadette, we're glad you're here, and I believe you were on the last call there too. So I'm glad you could make it again here for our call today.
Yes, I
Um,
really want to understand the adult day healthcare. That's why.
there's a lot to understand, a lot to unpack. Sometimes it
Yeah,
takes a few calls to
yeah.
kind of wrap your head around it. So super glad you're here, and we got the whole country covered. We got California, Brooklyn, we got Houston, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Illinois, all over the place. So got a nice diverse group of individuals on this call, which is fantastic. A lot of diverse questions, it seems like, as well. So real quick, just wanted to let you guys know. So Ozzy Herrera, who was going to join me on this call tonight, which I know, we had put all that information out there and stuff like that, literally probably 15, 20 minutes before the call. He texted me, said his mom had a fall and he was headed to the hospital to check on her. So he had to reschedule with us. We'll have him on again. I've known Ozzy for a while. He has an adult day center here in Florida, kind of in the Miami area. And he's been a big advocate for adult day. You can follow him, and he puts a lot of good content out there too, about the adult day space. But his center is called Social Center Adult Day Care. So you can look them up. They're in Miami, and he has a great Facebook page with a lot of which showcases a lot of what they do there. So just wanted to share that with you. So unfortunately, you stuck with me tonight, guys, but I'll do my best. Always love getting other perspective from other people because they might have insight and knowledge that they can add to this call as well. So we'll get them back, but just wanted to at least share with you guys what was going on with Ozzy. So we'll jump into it here. It looks like I guess we'll start off with you there, Angela. So I see you got that question in there right away, girl. So I appreciate it.
Yes.
So feel free to go ahead and maybe share
Okay.
your question for everyone to hear, and then we can dive into it.
Okay. With the Medicaid, on the Medicaid side, it's hard. And now here in Texas, it's like they're just, I don't know, it's like a standstill. And so a lot of people are keeping their individuals in their home with these special waivers that Houston has to offer. So, and it's leaving me with one or two clients now. And
What's your reimbursement rate? Just for
I'm
for
sorry,
clarification.
what was
What's your reimbursement rate on the Medicaid side?
the Medicaid side is like $23 a
A
day.
day?
Mm.
Guys, this is insane. Every time
It is
I
insane.
always use Texas as an example
Mhm.
of just when you're going into the adult day industry and you're you're trying to choose between being more Medicaid focused versus private pay focused. The hard part with the Medicaid, if your idea is to open an adult day center that is Medicaid focused, when you're in a state like Texas, it makes it very difficult for whatever reason. Like the hard part too is when the reimbursement rate's $23 an hour or $23 a day.
Mhm.
um it's hard for any adult day centers to ever have enough capital or resources or financial resources to form an association or a group to even lobby for what they're rightfully owed for the services that they provide. I mean, I think we can all agree that $23 a day is not enough, nowhere near enough to even run an adult day center and provide the level of care and food and all the things that we do for our members. So, this is an example of a state that makes it really hard to run and operate a successful adult day center model when the reimbursement rate is $23 an hour. So if you're going to
Mhm.
go that route, it's very important for you to understand your state, understand the Medicaid reimbursement rates. What are they? Can you get reimbursed for other services like transportation, or is there any sort of meal reimbursements that you can pick up on the Medicaid side? So just always be cognizant of that, because if you're like if you're below $100 a day, it's really tough. You could probably make it work on 80, but anything below 80, it is really hard to operate it, an adult day center and do it in the way that you want it done. So, anyways, I didn't mean to take away from your question there, Angela, but just
No,
I,
you
I
did not.
always I always use Texas as my example of like this is insane that
Perfect.
and that Medicaid rates vary widely from Texas to New Jersey to Florida, and because of these variations in reimbursement rates, some states may or may not make sense to go that route. But go ahead and
My goodness, you are spot on, and thank you so much for opening that up, because the when you spoke of they have to speak to their state, that is so true, because the state of Texas, it took me 3 years just to get my certification. So I am actually taking the individuals hoping that they will reimburse me. They say they will reimburse me, but when the time came, they did not reimburse me. It was all, now it's new laws, it's certain thing. So now it's like, now I'm not even getting paid. So it's super hard. You have to be prepared to expect not to get paid. Expect to definitely do free work. Yeah.
yeah, especially on the Medicaid side. Now,
Medicaid
are you
side.
yeah, are you trying to transition to offer private pay services? Is that
They're talking about
Yes.
Medicare, Medicaid reimbursement.
Yes. With the
okay?
Medicaid. Mhm.
Yep.
I think there's something that you're not getting told.
A lot of it. And you're so right, sir, because when you're calling them, there's, well, the calls that I've been getting, everybody, either they don't know or they transfer you. They send you back and forth. So you're all over the place.
Yeah,
And
I'm not sure who last I had was aware, Angel, just for everyone on the call
mhm,
too, is
mhm.
that I thought the reimbursement rate in Texas was around $35 a day. I
Oh,
could so again, that's just from information that I thought I had from someone else. Obviously, you're there,
no,
you're on the ground,
no.
but it is very low. It's probably one of the lowest in the entire U.S. I
Mhm,
don't want to get too stuck on the
mhm.
dollar amount. So like I think were you with your question, were you going towards the like if you were transitioning to private pay, was that kind of where you were leading to? Like
Absolutely.
okay,
Absolutely.
so maybe unpack that question
So
around that.
I basically want to know, how do I, with with the people that I'm competing with that are private pay. Like, I don't know how to go into the networking atmosphere and basically break down and to basically get some clients, because it's enough. It's enough out here for everybody. I promise you.
Right.
But I
Do,
just
do-
don't know how to market. Like,
well,
especially.
first of all, do you know how much like in your mind? Do you have an idea of what you want to charge from the private pay side? Do you have an idea what your market
Well,
is
I
currently?
want I mentioned to another individual who supposedly be private paying, and he said, I told him I wanted to start off with $50. He was like, "Oh, you're so lowballing yourself," and I'm like, $50? That's lowballing. But of course, I'm supplying meals. I'm doing transportation. So as I thought about it, I said, well, maybe I am.
Yeah, no, I think like I said, anything below $80 a day, yeah, like 80 is even low in my opinion. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
really the kind of minimum threshold, when you think about what you do for someone over the course of a
Mm-hmm.
day, transportation, meals, activities, all the stuff you're doing. I mean, $100 a day or more, should really be kind of like your target when you think about, what's that number? So, but then again, when you also think about these numbers and as you're kind of maybe transitioning, to this private pay model, you have to take into consideration like there might be this idea of okay, I want to be here and offer these services and have this standard of like excellence and care, but
Mm-hmm.
I may not be able to offer that today. So I may have to enter the market on the private pay side, maybe lower at, like say at that $80 per day mark, while I build up the infrastructure to justify the $100 a day. Like when I'm thinking about like our services here in our locations, like we have live music every single day at 1 o'clock. There's certain element, we have a chef prepared meals in house. We have like all, our breakfast is like, Mary wants a waffle, John wants a scrambled eggs with bacon, so and so wants something with sausage. Like it's very customized for breakfast. Like it's it's a very like kind of white glove service in a lot of ways. We
Mm-hmm.
couldn't, it'd be hard for us to maybe go to that level uh, out the gate if I'm transitioning from my Medicaid rates over to a private pay rate without having the infrastructure to support all of that. So now as you get to this like ideal place where you would want to be, and now you can back those, and you can justify the cost. Like us having live music every day is a very big expense monthly, to have different musicians come in with a bunch of different types and styles of music, from piano to guitar to just all the different types of musicians. So like that cost, when we charge our rates, like there's a way to justify that, because we're doing all these other things. So long story short, it's like, can you charge $80 a day? I think 50 is selling yourself too short. And then now the biggest differentiation between, say, the Medicaid side and the private pay side is that typically for those who are Medicaid focused, there's a select group of case managers that you're really trying to build relationships and rapport with. And then those case managers, you really become like your greatest referral sources. And it's a handful of people. And if you tap into them and provide good service, they're going to send you a consistent flow of new leads. With private pay, it really, in my experience, because we are primarily private pay, it takes a very omnipresence approach. Like you kind of have to be, you're at the neurologist doing a lunch and learn. You're going to the home health breakfast meeting and talking to all the therapists. You're doing the health fair. You're meeting with the discharge planners. You're doing the educational outreach. You're hosting educational seminars at your place, and providing education and resources. And so it takes this kind of omnipresence approach, because there isn't just one place or a honey hole or a small group of individuals that are going to be your primary referral sources for the private pay side. It really does take a little bit of this, like, okay, I got to be everywhere and in front of everyone when I'm catering to private pay. Another thing from the private pay side is like having a presence on Google. So typically, if you're Medicaid focused, the presence on Google may not matter as much. But if you're private pay focused, like there should be at least a certain minimum dollar ad spend on pay-per-click ads. So when people do search adult daycare in your area, you pop up in those search results. And then also making sure that like your Google My Business profile page is built out, and that like you do have some reviews on that page, and families talking about the services that you provide. Like all those things will kind of play, they'll play a more important role when you're kind of trying to attract folks, on the private pay side.
Google.
So the biggest thing is, I would say for us, Google still stands to be like a large percentage of our leads. Okay. But the second probably greatest, like lead referral source for us are our neurologists. I find that with our Medicaid clients, because we do accept both Medicaid and private pay, we're just, we have Medicaid, VA, and private pay. In my location in Port Charlotte, I would say 80% of our membership is private pay. And then out of that 20%, we have about maybe 5 to 10% that's Medicaid. And then maybe, 5 to 10% about 10% that's VA. So, long story short, our VA and our Medicaid typically are younger, a little healthier, and maybe in the earlier stages of having, say, Alzheimer's or dementia. Our folks, who are private pay, they're typically coming to us with more advanced, mild to advanced dementia. And so, that's something else to take in, to think about, that, at the end of the day, we are, we're really solving for, on the private pay side, there's typically an adult child or a spouse who either needs a break, has to go to work. We're solving the problem we're solving for really has to do with the family caregiver, and we're trying to solve that problem for them. And ultimately, we are taking care of their loved one, but they're the ones that are initially reaching out, where with the VA and Medicaid, we might have more, we might have people we're caring for that maybe have less family involvement, because the case manager's gotten involved and they're helping to direct these services. So, whereas with the private pay, it's more often than not that it's a family member who needs this break, and so they're reaching out for that break. So when they're searching on Google, there's more families searching, because they need assistance during the day, so they're searching for that. That's your typical private pay client. But the neurologist was our second, like kind of like strongest referral source. So, having, knocking on the neurologist door in your area that specialize in Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, and working with them, doing a lunch and learn, where you're going in there to share with all their staff, their nurses, and everyone in that office who you are, what you do, and who you care for. Those are, ways to start building those referral relationships.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
And again, don't, the value you provide. So definitely, don't sell you, I think too, I get this a lot of times with my own team, is there is a Medicaid mindset, or even people I've talked to across the country that have always taken Medicaid. There's this idea that like people can't afford $50 a day. And that is true for those that might be on Medicaid, but there are tons of people. And I always have to remind, like, we have a home care agency too, right? So our private pay rates for our adult day center range between $21 to $25 per hour. Okay. And so anytime my team comes to us, or we're about to do a price increase, and they think that the price increase might be too much, or that, or people or we talk about maybe why we lost a lead and it was over money, my adult day team always talks about that, that like, Kris, I think the price is the problem. And I always have to remind them, we have a home care agency with 70 clients that pay $38 an hour, so my point is, in the exact same town, we have another business that, like, where the cost of this service is almost twice what they're paying for adult day. And in home care, you're just getting, a one-on-one caregiver. In the adult day, your meals, transportation, live music, like all the stuff you're getting, like, it is such a, massive value, so, sometimes when you get hung up on price, or you think that others can't afford it, you have to remind yourself, no, they can't. Because there's people down the street from me paying $8,000 a month for assisted living. There's people paying $40 an hour for home care. And 80% of the population, I mean, I think, it's probably, when you look at the official numbers, it's like 18% of the population over the age of 65 is on Medicaid, which means that like 82% of the population, doesn't qualify for Medicaid, So there's a greater portion of the population that, doesn't meet the financial requirements for Medicaid, that they would, there's a larger population that can afford private pay. So only to say that, just that, don't get stuck in that Medicaid mindset. Just remind yourself that, yes, this population over here exists. There's a ton of people and they can't afford me.
Wow.
So
thank you so much, Kris, for that. I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely, Angela. I'm glad you're on the call, and appreciate you being here. And I think Melinda, if you're up next, I saw it. Melinda, if you're still on the call. Melinda, I see you.
I am. Just a minute.
Yep.
I'm going to the kitchen here. I'll be right back.
It's a cute golden retriever you got there, Melinda.
Thank you. Oh, it's okay. I'm just in the stage of kind of a dream of mine to do this, and I need to even know where to kind of begin.
Sure. And where are you located at?
Iowa.
Iowa. Okay. So like when you think about like kind of this journey for yourself, are you like purely exploratory right now, just trying to like understand how it works,
Yes.
or are you like, hey, I'm ready to do it, just don't know where to start?
No, I'm exploring.
Okay.
I'm an RN. I've been a nurse for 30 years, and my back's gone bad. So I'm just kind of exploring options. And that's always been something, kind of a little dream of mine, because I love memory care and dementia and just the older people.
Now, Melinda, have you visited a lot of your adult day centers maybe in your area, or do you know if
I
there
don't
are
think
any?
there are any in my area. I think
Okay.
closest would probably be like Omaha, Des Moines, something like that. So I just have to find them.
And do you know? Have you ever looked up to see if they're, to see the association, like in Iowa, if they have one, or maybe, if it's an active association? the state
I have
association for
not.
adult day? Okay. You know, when people are kind of in the stage that you're in, where you're, like it's purely exploratory, you know, I always suggest to them, you know, like when I think about even, you know, my own journey and how I got into it, you know, visiting other adult day centers, even if I had to take a road trip. You know, I remember one time, you know, when we opened here at the time, or when we opened our adult day center in Florida here, I remember, you know, I traveled to Fort Myers. So I, you know, kind of Port Charlotte, Sarasota. You know, I don't know if you know any of these areas, but you know, I traveled south an hour or so to go visit some adult day centers down there. I traveled north, you know, an hour and then 2 hours. I even went to Tallahassee, which was about 4 hours away. And I went and saw probably 8 to 10 different adult day centers.
Okay.
And for me, like I just wanted to understand like all like every single one of them was different. Some catered to the private pay audience, some were Medicaid focused, some were very beautiful and uplifting, some were cozy and homey, some were very depressing, and made you just not even, you know, just, you know, you were sad by what you saw, you know. And so but for me, getting that perspective and being able to see all the different types of options that existed, you know, I even think about ours today. There's elements of each of those that I felt like, you know, I was able to take as a learning lesson of like, okay, I like that, but I would do this a little bit different. Ooh, I think this would work from this person's, you know, that might be a great thing to incorporate here. So there was something I was able to take from each of those that really helped us formulate something for ourselves, you know. But the perspective of seeing the different sizes, seeing some that were successful, seeing some that were not, seeing the difference between Medicaid focused adult day centers versus more private pay focused adult day centers. Like all that was super helpful. Seeing some that had more of a medical or clinical focus versus those that were more social focused. It just really provided insight that helped me make a better call as to like how I wanted to open ours, you know?
Yeah.
So I think in that exploratory phase, I would just immerse myself in, you know, taking the road trip,
Okay.
seeing, you know, how, which ones are in my area or how far out of my area would I have to go to take a field trip and go visit those. You know, seeing if I have an active association, who is involved in the association, like calling on them, learning a little bit, you know, more about, what you know, just what those folks had gone through. You know, maybe if I'm trying to figure out between say Medicaid or private pay focused, getting a better idea of what the reimbursement rates are in that area, you know, like all that stuff would be like, you know, kind of helping me figure out and formulate a plan, you know. And
Okay.
you know, because really until you're ready to, you know, rip the band-aid off and like go for it, you know, this is, you know, there's not much of like a steps 1, 2, and 3. It's more of like you trying to identify for yourself what type of adult day center you want to open.
Right.
And then there's one question I always make sure that you got to kind of you know, the first thing you have to figure out, and this is part of this exploration that we're talking about, is there's 4 categories of an adult day center that I always tell people you got to identify. You got to understand your identity and who you are as far as the type of adult day center you want to be. And so I don't know if you've heard this before in any of my videos or whatnot, but I'll share it again for everyone. Is just that, you know, first is, you know, do I want to be more Medicaid focused or private pay focused? This doesn't mean that you can't accept both. It just means that is my goal to have 50% or more of my revenue come, you know, through my private pay, members, or 50% or more of my revenue come through, say, a Medicaid payer source, you know. So, you know, depending on, you know, what direction I want to go in and, you know, my identity, how I market, the types of referrals I receive, my reimbursement rate, you know, my anticipated revenue is going to have a, you know, a big variation on that. The second is, do I want to, you know, focus more of a social model or more of a medical model? You know, so you know, is my goal to provide those additional medical support services, you know, maybe PTOT, medication management, or do I want to be more of just a, you know, a destination that's for socialization, and maybe for some personal care needs? The other part would be, do I want to focus on seniors or young adults? And then the last question I always ask people is, is my goal for this to be a nonprofit or a for-profit business? And in that case, for-profit, you may not have a fundraising element, but if you were a nonprofit, there might be a group of people that you have to form to become part of the board. And then there might be this other fundraising component or grants that you would need to help offset the cost of operating your adult day center, which may make sense depending on, your payer source, so those are questions, that I always make sure people, it's like understand who you are. When I think about our location, it's like, we're private pay focused. We are senior focused. We have a medical model and we're a for-profit business. And by understanding that identity, it gives me clarity on who is my consumer, who is my target audience, who do I market to, and stuff like that. So I hope that was helpful. But
Thank you.
yeah, thank you, Melinda. Glad you're here. And I guess we'll go on to Harmony Hill. I think she may have left. I think that was Ruth, and she only had 20 minutes. All right, let's see. Yeah, I
Hey,
think
Kris.
yes.
I signed back in as Ruth.
Okay, hi, Ruth.
Yes.
All right, I got back to you. So if you want to maybe share a little bit more about your question, I'll try to see where I
Sure.
can help.
So I've been working for an adult day center that has been open for about 6 or 7 years. I've been there 4 years. We are a social model, and we do accept both private pay and in Illinois, we have the Community Cares program, which basically is based on the Medicaid requirements. So if someone qualifies for Medicaid, then they can participate in community care, and community care pays for their way if they need it.
Yep.
We are part of another organization which is still going to continue their daycare, but they've decided that we're bleeding money and they don't want us to remain open. So we have a couple of more months to go. I have some core staff that are interested in providing adult daycare seniors in our community, and we're just kind of wondering, like, what we need to do, I guess, is what regulations will we have to follow, what certifications, what licenses, and that thing. We can't really talk to our parent organization right now because it would be sort of like a competition thing since we're still working for them.
Gotcha. And like, just to maybe have some better understanding. So this is the adult day center that's part of this parent company. Like, is it a freestanding adult day center? Is it is it like, part of the other parent company and it occupies a space within that other organization? Or like, how's I guess the relationship between the adult day center and this other parent company?
Gotcha. Okay, so the parent, they have their own day center in another community, and it's a nonprofit, and it provides a lot of community services.
Yeah.
A
So
lot of community
is this kind of like,
services,
is this like
but they're in a different town.
is this like a satellite location then from that one?
I guess that's what you would call it. Yes, I
Okay.
guess we're a satellite.
And so are you your own freestanding building, or is it part of like a shopping center or part of
We
a commercial space?
the parent company rents the room that we have from another organization, and then we have the daycare in that rented space.
I know I'm trying to like, Ruth, have you ever brought up the idea of you know, taking it over or buying it from them, or like, somehow um just being able to relieve them of the responsibility maybe of their lease or whatever else, whatever other costs they might have to take it over. Or I'm just trying to, when I
No,
think about like when I think about like potentially starting over again, and having to go through the all the hoops and stuff of maybe opening your own versus being able to take something existing and just be able to run with it. I could just the starting from scratch is a really tough lift. Whereas it'd be really cool if there's a way to like save this by pooling together with a group of people where you could take it over and either buy it out from them or take over their lease or whatever the case might be.
That's an interesting thought. I don't know that would be possible because um, they've already notified the Department of Aging that we're closing. They've told the whole community. They've talked to the owner of the building, and have set a closing date.
Ruth, what's your role there? I guess.
Well, I was the lead nurse for 3 years, and then we had a change in management, and I'm still one of the nurses. There's 2 of us that share that role.
Yeah, and how much time do you have between now and the planned closing date?
Probably 2.5 months.
Okay, man, how many? Just I probably like in my head, I think there's just a really there's just such a better play if there's a way, like if there's a way to like take this over, and then put some put your in your team's expertise and heart and soul into it, without having the oversight of a parent company where you could take it from where it's at today and grow
Right.
it. I just feel like the amount of momentum and it would just be such an easier transition. Like I feel like you could save it, trying to start from scratch is like a whole nother beast. Like I always tell people, if you're going to open another, or if you're going to open an adult day center, I would look at my area first. What adult day centers are for sale, or what adult day centers could I buy?
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to starting from scratch, because it's 100 times harder to start from scratch than it is to buy an existing one that's maybe not doing very well, and then pouring your heart and soul into it, because the lift is a lot of the heavy work's already been done. Now you just get to go in there and make the little tweaks to it to make it better and actually give it the life it needs. Starting from something from scratch is like literally raising a kid and going through every stage from 0 to 18. It's a massive lift.
Right.
So in my head, I'm thinking like, what kind of plan? So going back to, I know you mentioned your role. When you were talking about like on an average day, like how many people attend currently, and what's your capacity there?
Well, our capacity would be probably 20 clients a day, but we have about 5 to 7 every day.
Okay, and is that been pretty consistent, those 5 to 7?
Yes.
Okay, and
most of them are private pay too.
And what's the size of the space there?
Oh my gosh. Probably it's a one big room with stations in the room, and I would say it's probably 40 by 40.
Okay. Yeah, I'm it's like part of me is wondering like if there's a way to devise a plan of like like kind of taking the lead on like, okay, hey, I got my team here, maybe I can maybe I can take this plan to my parent company, because the thing is, a lot of times, Ruth, these decisions might be made at a leadership level that you're not privy to the reasons behind why,
Of course.
and maybe you are. I don't want to make too many assumptions, but I'm just, like there could be these other things happening behind the scenes that you just have no idea why. You might bring this idea up to them, and all of a sudden, you're the solution that they were looking for, and it's a win-win for everyone. It relieves them of their responsibility. It's a win for the families who are currently using you guys. It's a win for the team that's in place. It's a win for the landlord, and it's a win for the community as a whole, because you don't have to go through this like closure and then like a reopening of something different,
Right.
So like, part of me is just thinking of like, not knowing who your leadership is or the relationship you have between yourself and the parent company. Like, is there a way to formulate like a tentative plan of like, how we could, save this from them and if they could share and have clarity with you guys about, hey, what is it that you're trying to solve for? And, can we be that solution? Like what is the problem? Is it, they're losing money, but they may not be putting any resources into it. And it's just kind of it's just over here losing money, but you're not getting the help and support you need. But you're like, I know if I did this, this, and this, we could make it successful. And maybe I can go to the landlord and he's willing to give us free rent for X period for us to take it back over and give it some new life. And then my team's willing to stay and I can take this on and I can relieve them of that burden of payroll and some other things, So I guess for me, I'm like, okay, what kind of plan can I put in place that I can present to my parent company and show them that like I can save this and take this responsibility off of their plate and then relieve them of that liability of whether it's the lease or the payroll or whatever else it might be.
Well, thank you for those ideas. That is one option that I had not thought about. So yeah, that gives me some new ideas.
Yeah, I just think the lift for you and or your team or whoever else that maybe you rally, as you were thinking about maybe opening, your own and then having to navigate licensing and all those other hoops. I just think that this could be maybe a first step that I would try to take before I start looking at the next step of starting our own.
All righty. Well, thank you, Kris. I appreciate your input.
Yeah, Ruth, I'm excited, you have to let me know, maybe on the next call, follow up with me, let me know how that conversation goes, or maybe like, strategize with someone else that you trust to figure out how you could prepare a plan for them, to salvage this, and then take over that responsibility for them. And then if, let me know the outcome of that, and we could always talk through next steps and ideas for, what to work out with the landlord or maybe how to raise money or things to pour back into this. And then if it's just an absolute no, like there's nothing you can do about it, then we can talk about next steps of how would you go about opening your own.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, Ruth. Yeah, you have a great evening. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I got Aretha. Is Aretha on?
Hello there.
Hello. How you doing, Aretha?
I'm good. I'm good. Um, I am from Illinois also.
All right,
And
Illinois is in the house representing.
yes, yes,
Let's
we are.
go.
I actually have another friend slash colleague who is also on the call listening. The both of us are nurses. We've been nurses for over 20 years. And our plan is we do want to open an adult daycare. Currently, I'm a caregiver at home. I take care of my dad who has dementia, and I was taking care of my grandma who just recently passed away. Also, my dad currently attends an adult daycare. This is his second one, and is always
Wow.
to open up one. So, I was listening to you talk to the previous person. I have had the opportunity with him to observe the one he's currently in, as well as one that he was in before. So this is new for me. I've watched many of your videos, and I've been trying to do my homework and take my notes. And I've also already looked up the requirements for Illinois. I've printed that out. I've looked at the application process. So my colleague who is on this call, we are like still doing our research, looking at the zoning. But
Are you both nurses or?
yes, we've both been doctorally prepared nurses. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't know what your colleague's background was. I didn't know if it was, both in the healthcare side or if maybe they were, on the financial end or operations side. So I was just curious.
No, we were bedside nurses for over 15 years or so. Currently, right now, we teach nursing.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
So,
Awesome. Well, and what would you say like when like your burning like kind of like the top of mind question where you're like I'm stuck and like okay, so what do I do now? What's my next step now?
right, that's where we are now. We're kind of
Okay.
learning between the Medicaid, the private pay, but also with starting up, like how to start up, and if there are grants, or and how does we go with like the loans when it's trying to find a building
Yep.
itself. And then we're still kind of torn between if we want to do it on our own versus the franchising.
Yep. Yeah. So let me ask a couple questions. So one, is your dad in the one he's in? Do you guys pay privately for him, or
No,
did he qualify for Medicaid?
no, he's actually a veteran, so
Oh,
we have
veteran. Okay.
to get it.
Yep.
Yes, so the
Fantastic.
VA, yeah, the VA currently pays for it.
And
Um,
when you think about the two different ones he's been in, are they ones that you're like, hey, did they do a great job? Or if
yeah.
I did it, I do it this way, or like
So I'll give you the backstory with that. The one that he's currently in, it's a little confusing. It's a much smaller one, very small. It is for socialization, of course, because I do work. But he's very independent and mobile, so that's what he needed, the socialization skills. So it's very small. They don't do a lot of trips. They do make their food. I think they do private pay versus the one that he was in for about a good 2 or 3 months. They're a much bigger entity. They also had patients that were like young adults, so it was beyond seniors. I think like young adults with disabilities. They took care
yep,
of, took them out on trips a lot. Still was a lot with socialization, but not more like where he is now. They do more activities at the table versus this one. They're more up and about and
right,
moving around. They would give me, they really, to me, followed the guidelines for Illinois. Like when I'm researching that, I'm like, oh, this is
yep,
what I'm seeing. This is what they're doing
yeah,
versus where he currently is. It's just truly like babysitting. But I have to use that one because I don't like him to be too far from me. So it's
yeah,
closer because where I currently had him, what they told me was he was because the VA paid for the transportation,
yep,
and they said that they're going to get in trouble with the Department of Aging because of the distance. Because we live quite a
mm,
bit far
yeah,
from the other one, and they're like the Illinois Department of Aging. They're going to get in trouble because legally he can't be on the bus too long. So they would
right,
pick him up and very early, and he would ride around for about 2.5 hours, to pick
yeah,
up everybody. So that's how come I had to take him out of that one. But it
gotcha.
was disheartening to do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Aretha, when you think about your area, are there a lot of adult day centers around your area?
So in my area here, it's probably within a 10-mile radius. Two.
Okay.
It's
Do
two.
so here's the thing. When I think about starting an adult day center for the first time, going back to something I may have mentioned, I know earlier in
Mhm.
this call, is like I would first try to see is out of those two in my 10-mile radius, would either of those be available for sale? Like would either of those, even if they're not listed for sale, like
Okay.
could I have a frank conversation with the owners and just, not like, coming in just kind of like just like low key, like, look, you know, you know, Mary, do you think you'd ever have an interest in selling at all by any chance? Like,
Mhm.
maybe you don't come straight out the gate, you get to know them a little bit or, but I guess my point is that if I think about the path of just the least resistance to get started, it would be to buy one for two reasons. One, it's the licensing is already in place, zoning's already in place, the building's already in place, the lease is already in place, all the billing's already in place. Like I'm just like so like all the heavy lifting of
I get
finding a location, going
it.
through build out, getting licensed, getting VA approved, getting Medicaid approved, all that stuff, which is just it's a long journey.
Yeah.
The faster path is to buy something that exists already, regardless of whether or not it's doing good or not. Like because there's so many ways to buy something like that. The second thing is it's easier to buy a business and get it financed by the SBA than it is to finance a startup if you have no business experience.
Oh, okay.
So like it would be easier for you and your colleague to qualify for, say, an SBA loan to go purchase the existing adult day center, than it would be for you to have to like go to find a bank and see if you can get an
Mhm.
SBA loan to start your own,
Okay, I see what you're saying. Hmm.
because then in that case the SBA can use this existing business's financials to like essentially when they're thinking about giving you the loan, whether it's to purchase, improve, or for whatever other things you might need for that business to bring it to where you want to go with it. They're really putting that loan together or collateralizing it based on that existing business and less about you and your colleague. So it
Okay.
can make it easier to get a loan. So I always say like, look, at the end of the day, you can knock on all those doors and talk to people and build that relationship, and they don't want to sell. They have no interest in selling, and it's just not that's just not going to be a direction that you're able to go. And if that
Yeah.
is the case, it is what it is. Then we go to Plan B, which is starting from scratch and starting our own. But
Yeah.
I would always start first with, hey, is there an opportunity for me to buy one of these? Because you never know if that owner, they're stressed out, life event comes up, they're just ready to get out, but they've been stuck.
Mhm.
They had a heart for it, but now they're burned out. They've been doing it for 30 years. They were crushing it 10 years ago, but the last 10 years have just been tough on them. And they're just, they don't have the heart and soul and energy to put into it anymore. Like you just don't know, what's going on. And maybe they never thought of selling either, because maybe they didn't think they could sell
Mhm.
so you might be an answered prayer that they didn't even know was coming to walk through their door, but you'll never know, at least unless you try. Right.
Right.
So, that would be, and I always tell people too, if you are going to go that route, there's a lot of reasons why people may not want to, because you may look at the business that you're like, and it doesn't speak to you. It's not designed the way you want to design. It doesn't have the furniture that you would want for it. It doesn't operate in the way you would want it to. And that's all okay, because the reality is that if you buy it, you can make it whatever you want it to be,
Yes.
So like that's the beauty about buying it, is that you can improve it. You can improve it over time. You might be able to get a big enough loan to improve it right away. But the reality of it is that just, try to look past what you're buying, and realize that you'll be able to change it once you own it.
One- Right. Right.
Uh, and so like, say you go that direction and it doesn't pan out. Plan B is we're back to the drawing board of, okay, how do we make this dream a reality? And then that
Mhm.
really comes down to, you know, what size space, what size adult day center do I want to open? What type, how much money do we have to pool together to make this happen? If we're trying to go the grant route, or, then, okay, does it, do we want to do the nonprofit thing? And then what would that look like from a fundraising and a grant perspective? And what other obstacles, what pros and cons are going to come with that? If we don't want to go the nonprofit grant route, then we're like, okay, now we have to get a loan. So what would that look like? Can me and my colleague together go and get this loan? If so, like, how much do you think we would be able to qualify for? How much money I might be able to raise, whether it's through friends and family for that down payment, or the combination of friends and family and whatever we have together and a loan. Like if it's only 200,000, then I might have to figure out, okay, what can I do with 200,000? Or if it's only 100,000, what can I do with that? Then I might have to start with a smaller space based on the amount of money I can raise, and then grow into a bigger space.
Right.
So those are type, things that, like, I guess as I'm kind of thinking about your particular stage that you're in,
Mhm.
that those are things I would be kind of considering, like, okay, can I go buy? All right. No, I can't buy. Now I got to go start my own. Do I have 100 grand? No, I don't have 100 grand. I have 10 grand together. Me and my colleague have 10 grand. Now I got to go find 90. Where do we find that at? You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's good information. Okay. A lot to think about. What's your idea on franchising?
Yeah, so look, we had to put ours on pause, and just for until 2027. Like, that's when we plan to launch it. Because our Sarasota location is going to be our training hub, and this location is the one we're optimizing right now to be that, to support our franchisees. So like when I think about other options that exist today, you have like options like a town square, which is, similar to us as far as size and the capital investment. And then you have other options like say Elderwell, which is a lower cost investment. And has a husband and wife team that are, really like, like they're in the trenches with you, but it's a smaller, more manageable, more cost effective, like startup. And then you have like Sarah Care, has been around for a while, and the founder of Sarah Care has been in the adult day industry for a very long time. And so, they have a lot of different types of locations from smaller to larger, and a lot of variation. So I think, going a franchise route, there's a lot of pros and cons. There's both pros and cons to it. I'm a little biased because of us, going in that direction with the franchising side of things. I do believe that we have a lot to offer when it comes to systems and processes and all that kind of stuff. So in my mind, a lot of times the franchisor has learned a lot at their own expense to create systems and processes that work, that is learning that you don't have to pay on your own dime, meaning like you might pay them, but you're paying like for their knowledge, which is at a
Right.
discounted rate compared to what it would cost you to learn that yourself. But for those that have very strong opinions on how things should be done, when you enter into a franchise agreement, there's restrictions, and if you're like, I want it this, it's my way or the highway, if that's your
Right.
mentality, then
Hmm.
then the franchise might always be like you might butt heads more. But if you're like, look, I just want to learn, I just want to do this, I just want to serve my members, and like whatever you teach me, I will run with it, then a
Okay.
franchise might be a good option.
Okay. All
And
right.
so I don't know if that was helpful, but that's my two
Very,
cents.
very. Thank you. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to hearing from you again, and definitely
You
continue
sure
joining
will.
our calls. And I look forward to kind of seeing and following your journey as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I think I got time for one more question. Um, if what I'm going to do, I'll probably just leave it up to because I know we have a couple more questions in the chat. So just the first person that
I
wants to
have something.
unmute their mic and share.
I have something.
Hi, Brianna. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How about you?
Doing good.
All right. So I am in Michigan and I have a home care agency. Um, and I've been up and running for about 3 years. And I
All
feel
right.
like I'm starting to see a lot of like kind of a babysitting situation in the homes where people are bored and a lot
Yeah.
of the caregivers are sitting in the homes, um, no quality of life for the residents. And so I want to get away from bedside nursing. I'm a nurse. Um, and I kind of have this idea of this fully functioning like healthcare circle. So I have the home care agency, I have the staffing agency, I have a scrub mobile medical business, and now I would like to add the adult day center. So currently, home care, I have a contract with Molina, More Medicaid, and Valley, AAA Valley. And so that would be like my entry because I'm already in it, right? So why not
Yeah.
use that? However, in Michigan, there's not a lot of things that I can find online to help me. I'm just like doing this on my own. So I found a building. I talked to the owner. It is an old Huntington Bank. I didn't know if the building was zoned for an adult daycare because it's kind of in a residential kind of area in a sense. And
Yeah.
so I've been dealing with the city in regards to this. And I did an application, answered all these questions in the blind, in a sense. And then the chief of police emailed me a little couple weeks back with all of these questions, concerns. And then I had to write a whole nother like email trying to help him understand that no, you're thinking about like a mental residential
Health or
living type of
behavioral health.
thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So he's like, no, we don't need this type of thing. And so Monday,
Isn't it crazy though? Like how many I see I deal with this every day because all I care about and talk about is adult day, and it just blows my mind how many people you'll talk to, and it's just like the chief of like the number of people I'll tell about our adult day center, and the first question they ask is how many beds do you have? I'm like, there are no beds.
yeah,
You come for the day and you go back to your own bed. There's no beds
they don't
here.
get it.
They don't
They
get it.
don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a big learning curve for the community as a whole. So yeah, continue. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to
He
interrupt, but
he asked, I'll tell you some of the questions he asked me. He said, he actually referred to it like a residential facility. He actually named that
yep.
facility and said they have lots of 911 calls, and here are my
Yeah.
concerns. And he asked, are the security doors, will there be key cards used by staff? Will the doors be buzzed open? Are there security cameras and someone to operate them in case of emergencies? Licensing for such daycare by the state, are there any regulations that need to be done by the city or in person? Applying for the daycare, how many staffing will there be on a day-to-day basis? Is that adequate for the number of adults that would be there? Any medications being stored on hand and what kind? How will they be locked up, etc.? First aid, CPR training for staff with other certifications, AEDs on hand. What about flashing lights and sirens for first responders? Is this going to cause an issue with anyone inside? So I had wrote a big email, and he wrote me back and he said, thank you for responding. And so I go in front of the board of this township on Monday, and I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm up against. I don't know a lot about it. I mean, I'm in this.
This is to get approval for the zoning verification, right?
Yes,
Okay.
because
Yep.
the building used to be a Huntington Bank, and it's kind
Do
of
they?
been sitting.
Yeah. Do they even have zoning for adult day in Michigan? Because like
Honestly, I don't know.
yeah, because here it's interesting because some counties or cities, when you're looking up the zoning code and they have like the land use, and whatever it's zoned for, underneath that it'll list all these different types of like land uses. Have you ever looked at that?
I have looked at what the building is zoned for. When I
And
looked it up,
what's the name for, like, is it
I think
commercial general?
it
Is it?
it says zoning R-1 SFPUD general business.
Got it. Yeah, so I'd have to look up. I'd have to like. There's gonna be somewhere on the website there that would take that whatever that code is in that general business, and it should break it down into like more descriptive terms like doctor's office, office
Yeah,
professional, like, and it'll kind of. But sometimes like they'll list adult daycare in that, like, underneath that sub description, and sometimes adult daycare may not even exist in any of the sub descriptions. And so sometimes, like, when you're going before the zoning board, it may be like, they don't even have adult daycare anywhere listed in there, and so now you're having to
I
like
don't think they
give.
do.
Yeah, so yeah, because maybe that's why like they're doing this, because then what happens is you're kind of getting you're getting almost like a special exception for it to be an approved use as this.
So,
Yeah. So
because I put that into Chat GBT to try to, I was like, okay, help me break this down. Still
right.
didn't make sense. And then when I went to the code enforcer for the building, he was like, this building is so old. He was like, I have to look at the plans and blah, blah, blah. And then that's how we got to where we at. So I don't think it even exists in their
In their
whatever
code.
they
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So I'm
that's
like
gonna.
totally in the blind.
And then what happens is, because if it's not listed, like if it's a special exception, and then you got this new terminology that doesn't exist in any other zoning code, then now we got to start getting more specific and clarification from them on, okay, what does that mean for fire? What does that mean for like these other restrictions that are going to be on me for bathrooms? Like, because if I'm a special exception now and I'm the only one listed with this zoning, for this use, like, what does that mean now for me when it comes to the number of bathrooms I need to have for the number of people in the building, or the number of egress ingress, for fire? or or do I need to have fire sprinkler systems? Do I need to have just a fire alarm system? So like all these things are going to come into play based on your zoning, approval or whatever the zoning comes in at. So these are definitely other questions to kind of learn about. I didn't mean to add more complication to what you're already trying to figure out, but
I think that's what they're trying to figure out too. Like, what regulations and rules am I following to be able to run this? And
yeah.
what qualifications do I have to
Now,
also run?
have you looked up in Michigan to see if there's any licensing around adult daycare?
I have. I was able to pull up Michigan Office of Services to the Aging operating standards for service programs. That does cover kind of like some policies that you have to sort of follow. And I also was able, it's just the same thing to pull up. It does talk about the adult day services in there. Yes.
So there is a license for it.
There's no license.
Oh, there's
There's
no
no
license.
license.
Okay. So you don't have to apply for a license at all. Okay. Yeah. So here's another thing that's interesting for anyone on this call too. Some states have very strict licensing standards to become an adult day center, like Florida. Like we have a ton of stuff that we have to meet, a ton of criteria in order to apply for our license and then to even get approved to be a licensed adult day center. And then you have a lot of states like yours, like Michigan, I believe Mississippi is another one where there is no licensing or any
Regulated.
standards so it's non-regulated. So now, it's good and bad. It's good in the sense that you don't have the next step of having to get licensed to operate, which sometimes can be a delay. But right now your first hoop is now jumping to the zoning side of things. So, I think the biggest thing when I think about us and some of the standards in Florida, so whether this provides some feedback is to like, hey, this is what I can go there and say, is I know in Florida, and I thought it was a national thing. It could have been maybe just a Florida thing, but recently they made it a requirement, where we have to have sprinkler systems now in an adult day center. So if you're building a new one, existing ones don't need to have a sprinkler system. They can have just a fire alarm system. But any new adult day center in Florida has to have a sprinkler system added to it. And then the other thing is we are a secure unit. When it comes to having a secure unit, all of our exit doors, that are locked during the day are under a key fob. Every door in our building is tied to the fire system, so that when the fire alarm does go off, all the doors will automatically unlock because it's tied into the fire alarm system. So that's a way so that you can keep your place secure, but you can also make it easily it's easy to evacuate in the event of a fire. So that might
That's
provide
where
some.
I'm struggling at, because I didn't even think of that until he asked that question. So
Right.
I like a lot of my guidance is going to come from just making sure that there is some like policies and procedures around certain things that maybe I'm not thinking of because I've never been in this space. I don't have a mentor. There's really no one around in my area that does it. And half of the time, if it is, they don't want to talk to you because at this point, you're
Right.
competition. So I'm kind of like in the blind. Like I'm moving forward. I'm doing this, but it's like
Right.
I'm figuring it out as I go. And I'm a little scared.
Right. No,
And I
100%.
have not told, like Valley Area on Aging that I'm doing this yet, because I want to make sure that all of my ducks are in a row before I let them know that I'm now offering this service.
Yeah.
However,
Well,
I did let the Melina know that I will be adding this service, and they were like, "That's perfectly fine. Once you get up and running, then let us know. We'll add that to your contract."
love it. Love it. Yeah. No, so I think, for the sake of your conversation on Monday, I think things that they're looking for is like just safety protocols. So I think this fire alarm thing might come up, so it's like, if it is, ours is secure because, for the most part, the majority of our members are seniors. As because they are seniors, there's a lot of, dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, individuals who might be exit seeking or an elopement risk. So all
Right.
of our doors are secure for that reason. So that creates a safe environment. And then they're tied into the fire alarm and have the automatic release. as part of, the safety from the evacuation due to a fire, right? So, those would be things that like would be music to
So
the
who would
ears.
handle that? Like who handled that part of it for you? Is it the city or is that something that you had to
So
have somebody come out and do?
yeah, so I mean, when we went through a massive renovation. As part of our renovation, the company that installed like our security alarm, put in the cameras, did our fire alarm. They also did the magnetic locks as well. So like
Is
it
that
was,
something that I can talk to the owner about maybe doing?
yeah, if you're leasing the space, you can certainly talk to the owner about it. Like if you're, so are you looking to lease this bank space from them?
Yes, I'll be
Okay, so
leasing.
yeah, so one of the things I always encourage people to do is like, a big lift for you would be, how much would they be willing to put into tenant improvements? Like, the TI, is what they call it, or that's like, the acronym for it. But, what kind of tenant improvement allowance could you get from them? Would they be willing to put 50 grand, 100 grand towards construction costs? Because you're probably gonna have to modify the space. If it's a bank building, I don't know how much usable space is in there, but there's going to be, we're going to make
It's
sure,
like 4,300 square feet.
okay. So like, that's a good size space, probably good for about a 40-person adult day center, you could be licensed for more I guess in your area, it may not really matter, but like you probably could be approved for 40 to 50, maybe even up to 60 people in a 4,000 square foot space. But now, restrictions might come down when it comes to egress, ingress. So fire evacuation points. Like, do I have enough to support a 60-person capacity space, right? And then do I have enough bathrooms? Like, so in our area, we have to have one bathroom for every 15 people, so like, you might have to take those things into consideration. So you might have to add bathrooms, you might have to add a kitchen, you might have to add, some of these security measures, and then the fire alarm side of things. And so by doing that, all that's going to, be part of this construction cost. You could have the landlord pay for a portion of that, and maybe they come in and contribute 50 grand or 100 grand towards these property improvements. And then maybe you have to come up with the rest, but that certainly is going to help. In addition to asking for the tenant improvement allowances, you could ask for, a rent abatement. So maybe in addition to the tenant improvement allowance, you go in swinging and you ask for that, and you ask for, hey, could we have the first 6 months free, or could we have some sort of tiered rental agreement where, the day we sign the lease, the first 3 months are free. Then maybe we have a pro rata of 50% of our, rental rate for the next 6 months, and then a full rental rate by month 9 or something like that. So just to allow you to have time to ramp up, and to get into the space, and to actually, get the marketing out there and start driving revenue. And then you might get that assistance when it comes to construction costs and improving the property. So now you might have to pay a higher rental price in exchange for some of those tenant improvement allowances, or for that rent abatement. So that's all part of the negotiation. If I ask for more money to go into the building, you know, that might cost me a little bit more on the lease. Maybe they want me to sign a longer lease. Maybe I got to pay a little more. If I want, money for tenant improvement and I want rent abatement, like I might, my lease might be higher than the average rental rate in my area, but I also just got, you know, $150,000 worth of value from this landlord that was willing to invest in my business, so like those are just kind of like the takes, the give and take of negotiating a lease with that landlord, and you could make all of this stuff, as part of the lease contingent upon, whatever you find out on Monday when it comes to this zoning conversation. You could start entering into a lease conversation, with the landlord, and make it all contingent upon, zoning approval for adult day use in that space.
Okay.
So
Whew.
a lot to think about. I think you're on the
Yeah.
right track. Sounds like you're doing all the right things. If in your case, if you do get stuck along the way and you have more specific questions, I mean, I'm not trying to promote myself, but you can always go to like the adcpro.com website, and you can just book like an individual coaching call, and we could just jump
Okay.
on a call for an hour or something like that. And you
Okay.
can go on there and pick a day and time that works for you, and just go that route. Or
Can
we
you
do
put
this
that
once a
in
month.
the chat box? That
I
link.
will. Yep, I sure will.
Thank you so
So,
much.
but yeah, no, I'm excited for you. I mean,
I'm so scared.
I know, but the thing is, you have experience in other industries, and so like in a lot of ways, you already have like a lot of you already have this understanding of the industry and how it works, and the payer source side, and probably the even from a marketing standpoint, and in the relationships with the case managers. That is a massive advantage to most other people who might be on this call that are just trying to like figure out where to start. You already have your feet in other, like it was easier
Yeah.
when we opened our adult day center, coming from my experience of having an assisted living. Like by the time we opened the adult day center, I already had relationships. I had people who liked, knew, and trusted us, and all that. Was kind of an advantage for us when we opened the adult day center. It made it a little bit easier, right? Because people already know
Hmm.
us, they already like us, they're already familiar with our brand and what we stand for and our reputation. So by adding that new service, it was a little easier to get that lift off the ground. Plus, we were familiar with how to manage a team and understanding the caregiving industry and the reimbursement side of certain things. So like all that is going to be an advantage for you. So
Yeah.
it is hey, anytime I take anytime I try something new, I go in all in, like I'm gonna take on the world, and then you get deep into it and you're like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah, and that has happened in every business I have had. And so, in a sense, I'm trying to be a little more conscious. Like, girl, you can't just jump in things and figure them out as you go. But sometimes you just got to, because it's hard to find the help, the information. And so I'm a risk
But
taker. I just
hey,
jump in and
listen. When I started our Sarasota location, I we bought this building, okay? And when we bought the building, we had to get a bridge loan to buy the building, but we couldn't get an SBA loan for to help us fund the construction costs and our FF&E and working capital until we had ownership of the building. Like we couldn't get the
uh,
SBA 7A, like the SBA loan, like and then buy the building and do all that stuff, because in order for us to get this SBA loan, we had to have a general contractor with full plans, architectural drawings, all this stuff, and an exact contract for construction costs, which took a couple months to get. So I had to take this bridge loan with this hope and dream of buying this space for our new location, not knowing what the cost of the construction was going to be. And in my head, I'm like, for what we were going to do, I'm like, it'll be like 700,000, maybe 1 million, like somewhere around there. you know, so now I own the building, okay, and now we get the final estimate from our contractor, and the first estimate was 2.8 million, and I'm like, holy,
what?
I'm like, what? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, give me those, give me that estimate. So we start going through this estimate together, and I'm like, all right, take that out, take that out. We don't need this, we don't need that. What is this? And I end up, we bring it back down to about 2 million. But my point is, I squeezed as much stuff out of that as I possibly could, but I'm 1 million to 1.3 million over what I thought it was going to cost to renovate this space. And
Yeah.
but I already own the building.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do? So my point was is that you know sometimes your naiveness, or your when you don't have you don't know everything, you just take that leap of faith. Sometimes like you almost need that naive understanding, or just to just even take the first step, because if you knew all the other stuff, you wouldn't take the step. I look back
Right.
now all the time and I'm like, we wouldn't be where we are today if like I knew everything I know about it now. Because
Right.
construction ran long, a hurricane came, it delayed our demolition by 4 months. We go to open, we got hit with two other
Wow.
hurricanes. So like and so as I'm going through this whole process, I'm like, if someone would have given me like a crystal ball and I could have seen all the stuff I was about to go through,
You wouldn't
I
have
would
did
have
it.
just been like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna take the money from our assisted living, put it in the stock market, and just
Yeah.
keep it. So sometimes that leap of faith, even though it's scary because you don't know what the other side looks like yet, or what it's going to take, or what it's going to cost, or what challenges or obstacles you're going to face. In a way, it's like it helps you take that first step. So
Yeah.
and then when you get there, you're kind of like, all right, well, I'm stuck now. now we gotta see this thing through. We're in the middle of it, right? So I guess in a way, like my point is that when I first took that step, everything is exciting and it's all the visionary stuff, and then it gets real and it gets gritty, and you figure it out, and you go to the next step, and you figure out the next step, and it forces you to have to learn how to overcome those obstacles, and then you get through it, just like you have with everything else you've gone through. So,
Question: do you guys offer transportation?
yeah, so we offer transportation to and from. And we're a private payment. Like for me, transportation is essential at getting regular attendance, especially for our members who are private pay, because we are primarily private pay. With Medicaid, they'll get an authorization, right? And so it's like 3 days a week or 5 days a week. A lot of times with a payer source, there's going to be a consistent schedule, and it's like it's just here it is. And people come because it's free to them. They got a plan from their case manager and they just follow it. With private pay, our members are more likely to, maybe they can't come or they live too far away or the family can't get them there. And so for us, transportation creates consistency and is a big part of ensuring our members come on a regular basis. So, but yeah. Well, hey, listen,
I got
we
lots of
covered.
questions. I'm gonna have to book a personal call.
Yeah. Well, I put all my information, in the chat. So for anyone that has additional questions, you can go there. There's a link to my YouTube channel, has a bunch of free content on there. And whatever else you guys might need, adcpro.com is kind of like the hub for everything. We do this call once a month on the second Wednesday of the month. So the next call will be March 11th. And I really appreciate everyone, joining us this tonight. I know we ran long. I think there's a lot of great questions here, a lot of people in a variety of different stages. And maybe one last thing, just to back up Brianna's, the stage she's in. And if anyone else is kind of entering that stage when it comes to leasing a space, never lease a space or buy a building without getting that zoning approval letter. So that's the number one key. So if you're going to go into a lease, you're going to go into a purchase, always make sure it's contingent upon the zoning verification or zoning approval letter that space can be used for an adult day use. So just want to make sure that everyone knows that, because sometimes I worry about someone taking that leap, signing a lease, then being like, all right, now what do I do? And then they're not even able to use or open an adult day center because it's not zoned for that, for that use. So anyways, just word of caution for those that are on the call and maybe entering into that stage. And Brianna, I'm excited for you guys. Everyone that joined the call this evening, thank you for being here. Super excited for you guys and look forward to following you along your journey. If you have any questions or want to get connected, go to that any of the links in my chat in the chat box there. Otherwise, I'll see you guys March 11th. Have a great rest of your February, and we'll see y'all in March.